Having a consistent and controlled space to record your video content and podcasts can make all the difference. A dedicated space will streamline your setup process, foster consistent and high quality content, and will motivate you to create the things you love. As we go through all these categories in building a home studio, if you can only focus on 2 things to get, whether budget allows or you don't have a space to really do everything you want, I would focus on getting 1 good light and 1 good microphone. You probably have a smartphone, and modern smartphone cameras can actually do really well if you have good lighting. And getting a good soft light doesn't have to be expensive. This is actually a $50 option. We'll put a link below in the video description. Getting a light like this that's diffused and gives you that soft light, plus having just a microphone, again, you can get one for about $50, getting it as close to your face as possible. Just those 2 things will make a huge difference. But if you have the option to build your own space and get the equipment you want, here's everything you need to build a home studio. The first step is identifying the space. You have to work with what you have, and we'll cover options for all kinds of room shapes and sizes. But are you building something new, remodeling a current space, or retrofitting a small office? The room I'm sitting in right now is actually part of a new construction process and then retrofitting it to be a home studio. And this is a pretty small space, about 9 foot by 8 foot. So we'll talk about some of the strategies to use in large and small areas. While larger spaces are more flexible, especially when it comes to lighting and camera angles, if the space is too large, it can be expensive to build and equip with the proper sound treatment. The larger the room, the more echoey it could be, and so the more budget you need to have for that sound treatment and getting the right set and decor. Also consider multi-purpose rooms, or is it a dedicated shooting versus editing space? If you only have 1 room to work with, like I did, then it needs to be both. You need to be able to film there and edit and produce your content there. So do you have room for A-roll and B-roll areas? If not, what is the all-in-one solution? Here again in this studio, I have a top-down shot of the desk, and I can do some B-roll there, and then I can do A-roll here. Again, still right on the desk, all in the same office. This is also where I edit the video. So even if all you have is a very small area, you can still make it an all-in-one studio, or if you have a larger space, you can have dedicated areas for B-roll, different tables, different backdrops for B-roll shots or product shots, and then different options for A-roll as well. Of course, A-roll is this, the actual talking head video shot where you're actually speaking to the camera. B-roll will be those product shots, close-ups, and other things that don't include you talking at the camera. Now, if you have the opportunity to speak into the construction of a new space, like this was a new construction, remember electrical. You want to be able to plan for lighting and outlets everywhere you're going to need them, even over-plan. Here in this office, I chose to have outlets higher up on the wall. This way for my fill light and hair light, key lights, I can actually plug them up high and I don't have to run electrical extension cables up the wall. So having those outlets everywhere you need them, even more than you think you will need, is probably a wise decision during the construction process. Also, when it comes to electrical, think about accent lighting if you want to do colors behind you or smart lighting, and also camera power. If you do have a larger space and you're going to be moving the camera around the room, do you want constant power or do you want to have to depend on batteries? If you have outlets in the floor, then you can actually power your cameras in the various places you plan to shoot and never have to worry about batteries. That'd be pretty nice. And don't forget about powering other equipment and peripherals, maybe a video switcher, audio interfaces, anything that might need power. Try to plan for outlets in all those spaces. Also, early in the process, be thinking about sound treatment and insulation. Here in this studio, we actually put sound dampening insulation into the walls, which helps limit some of the noise from outside this room coming in. Again, if you have a home office, especially if you have kids like I do, you're going to have to be thinking about sound outside of the office and when you record. Another key factor in keeping outside sound out of the recording space is a heavy sealed door. If it's in the budget, get a solid door, one that sound doesn't pass through as easily. Unfortunately, I got a hollow door, and so I had to find some other solutions. You can find products from a company called Audimute. We'll put a link in the video description. They actually sell material that you can put in the door frame that helps seal that off, preventing sound from coming through. Even blankets you can hang on the door, which helps block some of that sound that comes directly through the wood, because if air can get through, sound can get through. And so blocking all those areas will make it easier to record even if there's noise outside the room. Also, as you're planning the space, be thinking about internet. You're probably going to want internet wherever you're recording, whether it's for the devices you're using to record or just good Wi-Fi for your phone and tablet devices to use in that space. Be mindful of where the internet is going to come into the house, work with the internet service provider, find out how they're going to install it, and if you should run Ethernet cables to that point, or if they'll be able to run it into your space. Especially if you're building a new home, it's important to know where that internet is going to be. If you're going to run a bunch of Ethernet throughout the house, all coming to one place, make sure that one place can actually service your internet. Also be thinking about video switchers that might connect to the internet. We have a whole video on the ATEM Mini Pro series of video switchers and how you would use that with Riverside. You can check that out at the link above. If you have servers or storage solutions like a Synology, that's in addition to your computers, laptops, rack-mounted devices, internet switches, and of course, Wi-Fi access points. If you can speak into that construction or remodeling process early, run as much Ethernet as you can to any place you might want it. I actually ran all the Ethernet cable in this house as we built it, running multiple Ethernet cables to this studio. Not only for redundancy, just in case one of those runs ever breaks or malfunctions, but also because I can have dedicated lines hardwired to my main internet switch for my computer, my video switcher, and other peripherals. When you're running your own Ethernet cable, I would recommend Cat6 or higher. When you get into Cat7 or higher, it gets complicated as far as termination. If you're going to be terminating everything yourself, Cat6 is pretty good, and if your internet connection maxes out at a gig or even 2 gigs, the Cat6 will be plenty to manage the bandwidth. Be mindful of windows as well, whether it's a construction or a remodel. Windows can be blacked out using blackout shades or curtains. You'll probably want to do that to make sure your lighting is always even. You can even get automated blackout curtains like I have here. This is the Eve motion blinds, and I've worked it into automations where when I'm ready to record, it actually just lowers automatically, and when I'm done, it can raise. Now, whether you're building something new or remodeling a current space, having the opportunity to paint and decorate your studio is a huge benefit. Now, as you think about decor and colors, I would encourage you to watch lots of other YouTube spaces to see how others plan and what you like. We'll put links to some other YouTube videos, especially Becki and Chris. They have a darker vibe. They have a video podcast setup as well as video A-roll and B-roll setups. We'll put links to Becki and Chris so you can check out their studio. Or you can go like iJustine recent videos, which is just an all-white background, not even any decor, just stark white. But the main point is what is in the budget and can you make it look like yours? You can also consider green screen strategies. This way you don't have to worry about decor. You can do everything virtually. Again, that's a very different look than using a physical set like the one behind me. But if you want to use green screen, you can actually paint an entire wall green or blue, again, depending on hair color and skin tones. If you'd like to know more about that, leave a comment in this video. We could talk about green and blue screens. And then after you paint, think about the decor of your studio. Remember, soft objects like sofas or plush chairs can actually really help with sound treatment and echoes, so furniture is great. If you plan to shoot a video podcast, are you going to have multiple guests? Do you want a space where you and several others can sit around a table and you actually record the video? Plan around that. Think about where you would want to angle cameras. And again, be thinking about electrical power for all of those cameras. So if you do an hour podcast, you don't have to worry about batteries in any of your devices. Then you can also consider wall art and decor and even pegboards. You see that in a lot of videos. Pegboard is where you can hang things like headphones or even cables. And it's kind of a fun techie look if that's the vibe of your channel. And if you have to have an all-in-one space, you can make your set actually part of your functional working environment. If you take a look at the Gerald Undone videos, he has tools on a pegboard plus camera and lighting equipment, and he uses those in his videos. So if you need to have that all-in-one space where you actually store things and film, then make it a multi-purpose, multi-function area. Next, think about the desk or tables that you would like to have in the studio space. Do you plan to record behind the table so you actually see the table in the camera shot? Will you use it for top-down B-roll? So will the table be on camera at all? And do you want something that's height adjustable? Height adjustable tables can come in manual or electric. If you have the budget, an automatic electric adjusting height table is pretty nice. I actually have a Husky Desk right here. It was about $250 from Home Depot, and it is height adjustable, but you just have to crank it. To be honest, I don't adjust it very much because of that, but you can think about all those factors as budget allows. An important factor in your desk and table choice is, can you clamp things to the desk? I have microphone arms clamped to this desk, lighting and camera stands, and you're probably going to want to end up clamping something to your desk, even if it's just a monitor on a Visa mount. So get a desk that you can clamp things easily to that has kind of open space around the edges. This way those clamps can fit. A desk that has a very small lip around it is going to mean you can't really clamp things to it, and it's not going to be conducive to creating content. Also think about if you want a table for A-roll and other tables for B-roll. Or if one desk is all you can get, I would recommend larger is better. If you're going to be clamping things to the desk like I have here I have lots of things clamped, and I can still shoot B-roll top down because I have enough space for that. And if you can only get one desk, there's actually websites out there, we'll put a link in the video description, where you can buy different textures and surfaces that just lay on the desk. They're plexiglass covered and wrapped in different textures and colors. This way you can have multiple looks all with one desk. Now, a very important factor in a recording space is sound treatment. If you're in a large room, think like a warehouse, that's going to be very difficult to treat with acoustic treatment and sound panels. So you might think about creating a smaller room inside the larger room or warehouse. So if you have a very big space, try to make that smaller where you're going to be recording, even if it's just putting blankets up immediately in front and behind you. They do sell acoustic clouds that attach and mount to the ceiling or beams. We'll put links in the video description for that. Or if you have a smaller room, sound treatment is just as important there. You can get lots of reflections even in a small room. especially if there's a lot of hard, flat surfaces around. So you're going to want to treat the walls, treat the ceilings. You can use decorative panels like I have behind me. Those are from GIK Acoustics. We'll put a link in the video description. You can also use small sound panels. I bought some of these on Amazon, covered an entire wall with them, and that works pretty well. And also acoustic panels like these, where you can hang all around your studio space, and investing in that acoustic treatment is going to make all the difference for your audio. If some of those high-end treatments are out of the budget, get blankets. You can actually buy moving blankets for $10 to $20, and mounting those on a wall or hanging them, those blankets will actually help a lot, even if you can't get acoustic panels. And of course, if you have hard floors, you're going to want to get a rug or carpet to put on that floor. Any of those hard, flat surfaces are going to cause echoes in your audio recording. So soft objects, furniture, and of course sound treatment both on the walls, ceiling, and your door are going to make a big difference. One of the things I learned when building the studio is because it's a small space, I have computer monitors that I work on kind of right off camera. They're actually right next to the camera as I'm recording. And I found if I'm too close to them, there'll actually be reflections that come into the mic, and no amount of sound treatment was helping those. So I actually have to move the monitors as far back as possible, and I move myself farther away from them to prevent some of those reflections in the microphone. So if you have a small space and you're still getting those reflections after doing some audio treatment, sound treatment on the walls, try to move any monitors and hard flat surfaces as far away from you as possible when you record. Now once your studio is treated for sound and you've installed electrical, it's time to install some lighting. You're going to need a key light, fill, and hair light, ideally, that 3-point lighting setup. Hopefully you installed some outlets where you do need that lighting. And you can think about where you're going to mount them. I actually have my key light and my hair light mounted on the walls. My fill light is clamped to the desk because that's a little closer. So plan where those lights will be if you want to mount them to the ceiling, to the wall, or you could also have them on rolling stands. If you want a more flexible setup, be able to roll the stands wherever you need, mount those lights on those rolling stands. And again, if you have power in the floor, that will give you more flexibility to move it around your studio. And as you look to purchase lighting equipment, remember you want soft, even lighting. Right here I have an Aputure Amaran 200X light with one of the Light Dome 2s, one of those large soft boxes. Soft boxes is that white material that will diffuse and make the light much softer. That's the kind of look you're going for when it comes to lighting. Getting light boxes for those lights, again, will help that soft, even lighting give a pleasing look on camera. Also, again, be mindful of windows. If you have to black out those windows using blackout curtains or shades, or using them to your advantage, trying to diffuse them maybe with a sheet. Now, one of the most fun parts, it comes to video. What kind of cameras are you going to invest in for the studio? If you have the budget just for one camera, having something that does high quality video and good photography is really beneficial. If you can make the investment, the Sony a7 IV is actually what I'm using here. Even the a7 III is a great investment, the previous model, but it does great photography. This actually does up to 24 megapixel photos, really high quality, and it does 4K video up to 60 frames per second. Having that flexibility in one camera means I can shoot B-roll and A-roll with this camera, and it all looks great. If the budget allows for multiple cameras, you can actually have one for B-roll and one for A-roll and do multicam editing in Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, and it can really speed up the editing process. I actually use a Sony a6400. It's an APS-C camera, which means it's a crop lens, not full frame, but for B-roll, this top-down shots, it actually works great. I have constant power to it, and it's about $1,000. And if that's more in your budget, the a6400 is actually a great option all around as well. Again, I recommend having constant power to your cameras so you never have to worry about batteries when you're recording in your studio space. I have a power adapter for the a6400, and for a larger camera, maybe it has a USB-C port for charging. I actually have that plugged into a constant power smart switch. So whenever I'm recording, I run an automation and the plug turns on, so my camera is getting power whenever I record, and when I stop recording, it automatically turns off in an automation. Constant power is so much nicer, so I highly recommend it. Also, if you're going to have multiple cameras in your studio, think about a switcher. We have a whole video about video switchers that I'll link above. Think about if you want to record all the streams from the different cameras simultaneously. Blackmagic makes some ATEM Mini Pro ISO models, meaning it can record every camera stream separately as well as your program or cut shots. It's really helpful even for preview. I have a large preview monitor over here. I'll put a link to that. And the preview monitor can show your A-roll, make sure you can check how you look in that, check your focus. And if you have a video switcher, you can actually switch between your B-roll and A-roll cameras to preview them as you record. It's really beneficial. Also, don't forget about quality tripods. We'll put some links to Manfrotto tripods. Those are great. You can get some on rolling casters if you want that flexibility around your studio. And if you're going to be doing a lot of B-roll and product shots, you might want to look into a gimbal, one of the handheld stabilizers where you can put a camera, even a large mirrorless camera, and it will stabilize those camera shots as you move around your studio. You're also going to need lenses for those cameras. I would recommend a 24-70 f2.8 lens. It's a very flexible lens. It's actually one of the ones that I use for B-roll, and it can get you both good product shots and good A-roll. If the budget allows and you can get multiple lenses, it could be fun to have a macro lens to get really close-up photography and video of products, a telephoto lens for either portraits or just shooting outside, and ultra-wide angles can be fun as well, especially if you have a small space and you want to capture that all in one shot. You're going to need that ultra-wide angle. Also be mindful if you have a set behind you and you really want a good bokeh or blurred background, you're going to need a fast aperture. Look at f.2 or lower. I actually have an f1.4 lens on this. I usually run it at f.2, but it provides a good background blur and I'm still crystal clear. Finally, you're going to need microphones for your studio as well. If you're going to be doing A-roll like this and you want a good shotgun microphone that sits right off camera, the Sennheiser MKH416 is one of the industry standards. It is expensive at about $1,000. A more budget-friendly option is the Sennheiser MKE600, and there's other great options from Deity and lapel options from Rode and DJI. We'll put links to various shotgun mic options in the video description for you. Also, DSLR Video Shooter, it's a great YouTube channel. He did a shotgun mic massive comparison video. We'll link to that as well. It's a great resource. If you're going to be doing a lot of podcasting in your studio space, some ones that I recommend, I love the Earthworks Ethos broadcast microphone. It sounds great. It's great for my voice, really easy to use too. You don't need a special audio interface. It can be powered pretty much by a Scarlett 2i2 or a lower end interface as long as it has phantom power. Or if you want the microphone that you see pretty much everywhere that every podcaster uses, the Shure SM7B is a great one. It looks cool on camera. We'll put links in the video description for those as well. And finally, you're going to need an audio interface to drive all those microphones. If you're going to have a bunch of microphones, maybe because you're going to do multi-person podcasts, the Scarlett 18i20 is a great audio interface. It has lots of inputs and outputs. You can route audio all kinds of ways. We'll put a link to the video above where we talk about audio interfaces, lots of different options for all budget levels. But two more quick recommendations. The Apollo Twin, it's a very high-end audio interface, just 2 XLR inputs, but you can also power some external studio monitors, and it has great preamps to drive things like the Shure SM7. Or my personal favorite, the Sound Devices MixPre 3, also has very powerful preamps, 3 XLR inputs, really flexible, and it records to the SD card if you want that flexibility to move around the room and use as a USB audio device. So those are just a few things to think about when you're building or remodeling a home studio. If you have questions about anything we discussed in this video, drop a comment below. We'd love to answer you there. And subscribe to the Riverside YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss a video. We have lots of great resources on podcasting, video and audio production, podcasting automations and workflows, lots of great content. So subscribe, hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next video.